Well, hello everybody. Louise Eddington, the Cosmic Owl of Cosmic Owl Astrology, with the week ahead forecast for the week beginning September the 29th, which of course takes us through the big solar annular eclipse that's on October the 2nd. I did an entire video on that you can go and look for. But before I dive in, I'm going to ask you to subscribe, give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment. And I also want to express my great gratitude for those of you that support this YouTube channel. It was one of my goals for the year to grow it. And now I'm now over 4,000 subscribers. I appreciate every one of you. And I do intend to keep growing this channel. And so the week ahead, before I dive into kind of all the nitty-gritty and the details, I do want to say, and if you watch my eclipse video, you will know that I actually like the feel of this eclipse. I do want to have a caveat though, that it is an eclipse and it is highly energized, and we are in the dark of the moon because it's a new moon eclipse and it is a reset. So this week, uh, you know, maybe a bit emotionally challenging. You'll see when we get to the cards that I pulled, I'll pull them at the end, that they kind of reflect that. Of course, the a new moon period is always a time of going inwards and releasing and then setting seeds of intention, and we can't really act on those until the moon starts to gain light. We also have a couple of other big things, like we have a Mercury superior Cazimi. So Mercury, I did a whole video on Mercury in Libra too. Mercury is under the beams of the sun for the whole period that it's in the sign of Libra till October the 13th. So again, as well, our mind communications and things is on this other side of the sun, which is not necessarily a bad thing in many ways, but because the energy of Mercury is pretty well burned out or combust the sun, we may not be able to get real clarity on our thoughts until things really start to shift. So it is an intense week. But let's dive into the astrology, and we will start with, oh, I've got a cat on me, by the way, that might get rather annoying, but she is being needy and she wants to play with like my earbuds and things, but we'll ignore her. Anyway, so let me share. This is Luna if she makes an appearance. So here we are, Sunday the 29th, taking you forward throughout the week. I actually want to remove some of the displayed extra points because they are not relevant to this. And I talk about some of the lesser bodies in my daily Substacks because I cannot cover everything. So I'm going to simplify the chart for you because I know some of you go, oh my God, there's so much there. I have to leave Ceres in because I consider her a dwarf planet. So, and some of the bigger energies. So does that look better for you? So I'm going to look at the major aspects for the major planets and nodes and things. So this is September the 29th on Sunday, where we're started. And the first thing that we notice is that the sun is in Libra. The moon is still in Leo. We're heading towards a Libra eclipse, but the moon is about to go into the sign of Virgo for a couple of days. But this is how we start early Sunday morning. And look at this tight conjunction at 3:24 a.m. exactly. We have the sun conjunct the South Node, and we're really in the eclipse portal there. And of course, this is the South Node. This is where we're coming from. We've been working on these South Node lessons in Libra for quite some time. And this is about not people pleasing, not playing nice, not smoothing things over for the sake of it, but rather coming from a place of strength and really stepping into kind of more balance in relationships. We do that through the North Node, which is an Aries, which is kind of getting very clear on what we want and what we desire. And then we can come back to the South Node and do Libra relationships more healthily. But you can see that this Libra energy as we start the week is very intense. It's very um, tight conjunction. So, we may have a lot to think about as we're going into the last few days of the moon before the eclipse, before the moon goes into Virgo. Then the moon will, well, you'll see that anyway as we go forward. So at 5:41 a.m., the moon goes into Virgo. As I said, we'll be there for a couple of days. And then later that evening, Mercury will conjunct the South Node as well, saying, let's have a think about this and let's have a think about how we communicate, how we compromise, how we think about giving our power away to others, but coming from that place of knowing who we are and what we want and how we speak to others to find that more balanced relationship. Now, the thing I always say about Libra energy is that it seeks balance. It's not always very good at it, but really that's what Libra desires. And this eclipse is a real, and this energy leading onto it is really about seeking that balance and thinking about it and setting intention to do so. Okay. Right. And in all your significant relationships, that is. So on to the 30th. So very early on the 30th, in fact, 12:06 a.m., so just 6 minutes after this, Mars in Cancer, the kind of compassionate, protective warrior, the guardian warrior in the sign of Cancer, makes a trine to retrograde Saturn here. This is kind of saying, we don't always have to be at loggerheads. We don't always have to be fighting. We can let go of some of those self-limiting beliefs that have our walls up and have our barriers up and have us always fighting and being angsty. You can see where all of this kind of fits in together, right? It's about coming into healthier dynamic within your relationships. Now then, later this day, 5:09 p.m. exactly, we have a Mercury Cazimi. Mercury on the other side of the sun. This is the exterior or superior Cazimi, and this will be at 8 degrees Libra, 11 minutes. Okay. And so also we can see that the moon is about 30 degrees away from the sun, has just made a sextile, a semi-sextile, the last exact aspect before the eclipse. So everything's piling up together. This Cazimi in the dark of the moon, because we are now in the eclipse energy, is saying, like, really kind of meditate, think about, write, journal, do your morning pages, process these thoughts that are coming through around what intentions you are setting for this new moon eclipse that's on the 2nd. So now then, on to October the 1st. Happy birthday to my cousin. So October the 1st, we only have one major activity, and that is that the moon will enter the sign of Libra at 6:19 p.m. and then we are really into the eclipse portal position. October the 2nd, eclipse day. Look at all of this. Wow. So October the 2nd, first, before we have the eclipse, we have a couple of significant aspects. Now, this is a Venusian eclipse because Libra is one of Venus' home signs. Venus is over here in Scorpio, supposedly in detriment. My Venus in Scorpio says it's not detriment. We're powerful. We are deep. We are not mermaids. We don't float. You know, we go deep. We have this intensity, this real connection. That's Venus in Scorpio. And that's significant because right before the eclipse, Venus will aspect Ceres over here by a sextile aspect. Now, this is kind of the maiden mother crone aspect. This is the maiden, this is the mother, Pluto, the crone. Now then, this is speaking to each other, saying, you know, this is about making sure your deep needs are met as you seek this balance in your significant relationships. This is about digging deep into power games, manipulations, and the structures of your life in Capricorn and the institutions, by the way, and saying this is an opportunity to really look into making sure that your needs are met in future by how you live your life and the people you're in intense relationship with. Now, adding to that, at 10:43 a.m., Mercury also hits 11 degrees and squares Ceres. So that's adding that, thinking it over, setting intention, that mental component of it about creating balance in these relationships so that you're in much healthier relationships. And then at 2:49 p.m. on the 2nd, we actually have this eclipse. Now, again, I've done that whole video on it, but this is the last eclipse in Libra for 19 years till the nodes have gone all the way around. Well, actually 9.5 years, because when the nodes are reverse to this, we will have some Libra eclipses. We do have an Aries eclipse coming up next March, which is another solar eclipse, so a new moon eclipse at almost the exact opposite point, 9 Aries. This eclipse at 10 Libra, and that will be a fulfillment of something that's begun now. And I tell you that so that you can begin to set your intentions for about that next 6 months. That Aries eclipse will be on March the 29th, 2025. You can kind of set goals and intentions to have something that you're beginning now really in place by next March, the end of March next year. That's just an idea. I mean, I like to give myself a timeline for things, so it's not such some vague, waffly kind of, I'm going to set intentions. And really, you know, intentions are more powerful when they are about who you be, not what you want. Okay. So on to, well, October the 3rd, there were no significant aspects, so we can move on. But we do see that the moon is still in Libra. And then on to October the 4th, you can see the moon is finishing up in Libra and going to head into Scorpio. But the other major aspects that we have on this, on October the 4th, are that the sun, still in the no moon phase, by the way. Mercury's still burned out, but the sun will come up and square Ceres now as well. So again, Ceres is needs met and unmet in Capricorn, the structures, institutions of our lives, also boundaries, healthy boundaries and achievement. You can kind of see where this is going because we've had Venus, Mercury, Moon, of course, and now the sun, all aspecting Ceres, saying this is what we're looking at and what we're moving towards. Ceres was square the nodes recently. She's stationed direct. She's still out of bounds. So she's still a little bit eccentric and saying, I'm really gonna make sure I do this and make sure my needs are met. And Ceres is now moving towards the North Node. So we're on this journey towards what we're creating, what we're starting, what we're beginning right now. Then at 7:22 a.m., the moon moves into Scorpio for a couple of days. And then 1:03 p.m., Venus will actually start to come up to making a watery grand trine. You can see this. Venus will actually trine Saturn, letting go of some of those limiting beliefs, washing away the old rules, the patriarchy, working with Mars in that more compassionate, guardian, protective state. This is very cleansing, very kind of purging kind of energy, purging of, intense relationships where perhaps the power dynamics are not healthy, and you will know how that speaks to you. Okay, this will especially be so, of course, if you have any energies around 14, because she's going to come up and trine this exactly, 14 to 16 degrees-ish of water signs, particularly all the elements, I mean, all the modalities. So we have cardinal, fixed, and mutable. So this is a real cleansing. And while we're still under the no moon phase, this is a big release. Okay, so, and then on to October the 5th, the moon is in Scorpio all day, does meet with Venus for her moon's gate, but I'm not going to go into that here. On October the 6th, moon still in Scorpio, but is now more than 30 degrees away. So the moon is starting to gain light. We can start taking action on all that we were creating. At 2:36 a.m., Mercury will join all of this party and square off with Mars, that compassionate guardian protector energy in the sign of Cancer. And this is an opening square saying this is, I can start speaking, I can start taking action about what I'm guarding, what I'm protecting, what I am fighting for in the name of Cancer, in the sign of Cancer. What am I birthing? Mercury is saying it's time to start, writing about it, talking about it, all those kind of things. And this is actually Sunday again. So this is next week's. So I did want to mention the Mercury. You can see that the moon will finish in the sign of Scorpio, and later that day, 7:34 p.m. But this will be on next week's report. Hopefully my bruising will have all gone by then. We'll move into Sagittarius. Okay, so not an easy week. There's a lot going on. You can see that those personal planets, the sun, the moon, Mercury, and Venus, are all making or aspecting all the same things. But this is a real kind of reset again, because it's the eclipse. So let's actually look at the cards and really kind of tune into where this is going emotionally. I think it's going to be a bit tough week emotionally, because we're in that dark moon on this eclipse and everything's so intense, but it's a real time to meditate, to spend time in contemplation, really thinking about all these themes. And these are the things that might come up for you, though, that are kind of less than shiny, shall we say. So I got the Fool, first of all, reversed. The Fool is always a new journey, new beginnings, enthusiasm, adventures. Okay, but this is reversed. And in Libra, well, let's say the card represents naivety, assuming you already have the answer, making some impulsive choices. Also can be analysis paralysis, overthinking, being bogged down, and jumping before you look. Well, this is not a good idea this week. Towards the end of the week, sure, the moon starts to gain light and it's time to begin taking action. This is a week to go inwards though and kind of look at all those themes and look about where you may be tempted to overthink, but really kind of tuning into your inner knowing, but also don't jump. It may be a new moon. You may think like, right, I'm ready. Let's go, let's go, let's go. No, we're in this dark moon, inward time. Just slow down, stay within. You don't have to do this immediately. Now then, we got another reverse card too, the Page of Wands. This is about limiting beliefs, Saturn in Pisces, retrograde especially. Also, there could be blocked ideas and a need to really go within and direct your energy and ground your ambitions with a plan of action. And so you may feel like you've got a hard time getting started, but that's because you're not ready yet. You kind of got to set those intentions and a plan. And remember, I gave you that end of March date for the eclipse that's going to be at the opposite point. Plan for that next 6 months-ish. Plan till the end of March. You can adjust the plan along the way, but a focused mind and intentional plan really does get somewhere. This is kind of a message to do that. Okay. And then the last card that we have for this week kind of also indicates that kind of time within. But this is a upright card, 5 of Cups. Okay, so let's have a look at this. You can see the cups. The cups are all spilling. It's looking into kind of a scrying kind of energy, but the cups are spilling into that energy, that whole. Fives are always a number of change. And of course, eclipses are bring big change. This card is saying you may experience this week some disillusion, some disappointment, some bitterness, you may even find yourself wallowing in self-pity, and some grieving. And the answer, of course, is in the upright of this card, which is a time. Oh, sorry, I got it reversed. So the answer is this: a time for self-love. Make sure you aren't repressing your emotions. That doesn't mean you go and have to cry over everybody. That's at least find a way to really work with these emotions that are coming up in this new moon eclipse period. It's saying, really kind of get rooted deeply into that shadow work, and really kind of looking at those old stories that you need to let go of. But definitely it's a message to do self-love instead of crying over spilt milk and what you can't change. This is a message to really kind of go within and see how you can do differently going forward. And you guys know that I'm all about self-love. I actually watched an incredible interview with Joe Dispenza before I recorded this on Thursday the 26th, talking about what the key is learning to love yourself. And that's really the central message of all that I do. So this week could be a bit challenging emotionally, a lot coming up, a lot of thoughts, a lot to process. But if you kind of work with it and do that self-love and make these and think over your intentions and your plans very intentionally to create more harmony and more balanced relationships, including the one with yourself, this could be a very powerful eclipse for you. And as the moon gains light, you can really start to take action on all that comes up for you during this time. So don't wallow, do the self-care. And maybe the self-care can be allowing yourself to wallow a little bit, but processing what you're feeling and thinking about as you wallow a little bit, but not kind of getting stuck in it. Okay. Much love to you. Have a great week. Wish me luck with my surgery. Oh, well, it'll be over by the time you see this because I'm going to schedule it for Saturday. My surgery is on Friday. So wish me good healing from the dental surgery. I'm not looking forward to it. See you next time. Bye.